It's about to get crazy. It's about to go down. It's about to get crazy. It's gonna be loud. This is our house. We do what we wanna. We'll blow the roof up. Everybody's coming. It's about to get crazy. It's about to go down. It's about to go down.
Have a seat. I'll be like
So,
This is
the therapeutic
yeah,
psycho doctor.
he doesn't listen to me anymore.
Oh my god.
I feel like we have a divide between us. It's just not getting through. You
There's
don't
two
nothing
sides
more
to
than
every story.
Listen.
Dan, has Adam done anything lately that you appreciate deeply?
Yeah.
Can you tell him?
You saddled your own horse. That
Multiple
one day, that
times.
was
How's the
great.
acoustics in here?
Lovely.
There's a little
Change
bit
the
of an
subject.
echo. but
Lovely.
Oh.
Yeah, I appreciate
Probably.
that.
Well,
Better.
I appreciate the fact that you've wiped poo or mud on Gritty's bed.
That's my bed.
I think it's poo.
That's my bed.
What's that? Oh, is it? Oh.
That's payback for all the snoring you do.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this because we all want to go to bed.
Do we look Australian though? We're both wearing jeans,
Yes.
a little bit of facial hair.
Mm-hmm. You sound Australian.
Do we?
Bobby Dazzler, mate.
Bobby Dazzler. You bloody wombat. Come on. Come on, unreal banana peel. Real keen baked bean. No?
Just break into a Vegemite song.
Happy little Vegemite.
It's as
Happy
bright
as
as
can
bright
be.
can be. We all enjoy our Vegemites for breakfast, lunch and tea. This is why me and Dan don't drink, because we're really silly enough.
Would be out of control.
We're the only two Australians that don't drink alcohol.
It is odd. It is. Let's talk about that. First, let's say thank you for joining the Gritty Podcast. Welcome. My guest today is Adam Greentree and Dan
Watson?
Watson.
Yes. We've only spent the last fortnight in the mountains together.
He's
Brian-
Dano.
But we go by...
Brian Cole?
Yeah.
Yes.
Colostomy? Brian Colostomy? Is that-
I deserve it.
We go by first names and swear words.
No.
So we just got back from a 10-day wilderness.
13.
13?
Give it what it's worth.
Yeah.
We've travelled 13, I believe.
Yeah, 13 days.
Well, for me, it's been
W-
2.5 months.
Yeah. Moose, hunting moose, caribou,
Yeah.
mountain goat,
Not much
wolves.
mountain goat action.
But we kind of ended up just moose
Moose.
hunting.
Yeah.
Brian
but,
took his time.
We had a few tags in our pockets.
Yeah.
Which is always good to have. It's
Yes.
better than the other end and being like, I should have spent the extra $200 and I could have shot that giant caribou that we just pumped.
Yep.
Rather than going, we can't hunt that at all.
Because you know, as soon as you don't have a tag in your pocket,
Oh, they'll pop up
some
everywhere.
smasher is going to walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the hunt before I saw like three
Yeah, Dan, we
bulls
don't,
just cruising through.
we don't care. It kind of upsets us, really, to hear
Yeah.
about it.
Right where we would have been. That's the way.
So before we get started, Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm actually interested to tell us about yourself and then tell us how you got into guiding, because as an Australian and now you're in the backcountry of BC and
Yeah.
Mexico and everywhere, like that's really cool.
Yeah, I just from Sydney, Australia, and grew up in the bush, but probably started hunting when I was 13, and but my family wasn't really into it, and I just loved it, and but I actually wanted to be a herpetologist when I grew up, which is the study of reptiles, so kind of Steve Irwin style, and
Did you say
Steve Irwin?
Irwin?
Yeah, the man.
Yeah, see, my audience is going to need a translator.
Yeah, when he
That's-
said bush, I was that means the woods.
The woods, yeah. So I kind of started doing a degree in animal science, and halfway through that, I started to learn more about hunting conservation, and that really kind of got my curiosity going. And one of my lecturers was a mentor in hunting and it taught me a lot. And he went on a dull sheep hunt in Alaska and came back and showed me photos and said, hey, you could go over and pack for a year and learn to guide. And it just sounded unreal. It was like everything. I'd always wanted to go to Alaska, and it always fascinated me. And all of a sudden, there was an opportunity to do something kind of unique. So I went along with that, kind of knowing what it would entail, and ended up spending a whole year, well, most of the year there, and just loved it. You know, it fit everything that I'm passionate about. And the guy that I worked for wasn't the best kind of character, and I figured that out, but I was kind of stuck in the role for a while, and eventually got my assistant guide license and then left there. And one of the clients I'd guided for Doll Sheep and Grizzly Bear was going on a bighorn hunt with Dustin that same year, and so he's like, hey, do you want to come along? Could be an opportunity for work. You never know. Worst case, you get to go on a bighorn hunt.
And explain Dustin.
Dustin Rowe, little dude that can carry a lot of weight and just a go-getter. Dustin's probably one of the best sheep guides in the industry. He's been on probably 127 sheep by now. And entrepreneur, great business guy, and a really good person.
Extreme backcountry.
Yeah, extreme.
hunter.
Yeah, just hardcore.
Thrives on it.
And but I didn't know that at the time. You know, I kind of just figured I was going to bighorn hunt, and then went along, and we ended up having 6 days of blizzard conditions. Like, there was already 2 foot of snow on the ground by the time we got in, and then it just kept going and going. So it was pretty miserable, and we had to pull out of that area and then continued hunting another area. And I was with 2 of his guides, not with Dustin, but yeah, so it was a pretty tough hunt, and they kind of got to see what I
Or made of.
Yeah, what I was made of. And after that hunt, Dustin was going on a mountain goat hunt and asked if I wanted to go, and I was like, yeah, I'll help out. And so we went up and nearly died a couple of times and retrieved 2 goats and ended up packing out 2 goats. And yeah, so he got to see what I was made of, and then when the opportunity came up, with the new outfit that he got, I got a chance to be a part of that last year, and we had great success and a lot of adventure. And this year, I've been able to become a lot more involved with all aspects of the business. I went to the trade shows this year and helped him with that, and it's just a great opportunity for me to do the guiding aspect of it, which I love, but now I get to help out with the other aspects of the business, and there's a lot going on. Dustin's very entrepreneurial, so it's cool to be a part of that and learn, and there's so much I've got to learn about guiding and business, so
Yeah.
Oh, you're a major asset to his team, 100%.
Dude, you can
And all
cook,
that stuff
like,
comes with time.
it's just the cooking.
He can't
man.
cook. He can cook mac and cheese. That's about it. So he appreciates the cooking.
I mean, you're multi-talented. It's not that you can just hunt and stuff. And
yeah,
sing on
I
horseback.
can sing pretty damn good.
Like Jukebox Hero. Like anything we request. I mean,
that.
you're very dimensional, multi-dimensional.
Thank
I was impressed. And then, what are the odds of having 2 Aussies in the same camp
that don't
in
drink.
British Columbia?
Yeah, that don't drink.
Yeah, that don't drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome hunting with Adam. It's weird because
We
he does it.
understand each other.
Yeah, we understand each other, but we have to tailor how we speak to Americans. Even though Brian, you kind of suck at understanding it still.
Dude!
Most American, we use buddy now. We say truck and a weed whacker instead of a whippersnapper. Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff that we have tailored. But then all of a sudden, having an Aussie in camp, it's like, oh, I can make it.
That's bloody heaps good, eh, mate?
Yeah, oh, you bloody ripper. And, there's just little things like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I could. So, no, it's been awesome having Adam in camp. And
I find myself
and someone with balls.
I find myself saying what a lot. Like, what? Like,
What do you reckon?
What? And then you repeat the same thing exactly the way they said it the first time. that doesn't really help me.
Well, because we assumed that you were just hard of hearing, like you needed to pay attention.
No, it's not that
Not
I didn't
that
hear
weird.
it. It's, I heard it clearly. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah. So Adam didn't really. This was kind of a last minute hunt for you.
Yeah, it's just
very last minute. Just kind of came up.
me, yeah, and I jumped at it obviously.
Yep.
Yeah.
After I spoke to Kim about it, because me and Kim had pretty much the next 6 months. Me and Kim had planned out hunts together, and I had to put a couple of those hunts off with Kim to sort of jump at this. But like so I hunted moose in Canada, but Northwest Territories like 7 or 8 years ago, and I actually thought I'd never get to hunt Canadian moose again. So when the trip come up, it was like, yeah, 100%. Jumped on a flight, away I go. Kim's very understanding of things like that, and the whole time I was just, because I knew Dan worked for Dustin, and I knew Cole did a bit of stuff with Dustin, so I was just really hoping it was either one of them or the two of them or something like that.
Yeah.
And so to then be said that I'm getting Dan, freaking awesome. Because, you know, you could have the hunt of a lifetime, but you've got to be guided, and you're guided by some goose that you don't get along with. No, it's true.
Yeah, totally.
It's not going to be a good hunt.
Oh, I
You know,
agree,
because
yeah.
it's not just about, you know, killing an animal. It's about the whole experience.
The brotherhood, that camaraderie that comes
Yeah.
from
And I'm sure we'll go into this in more depth throughout this podcast, but the crew that was in our camp were friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
And even if that whole hunt was void of game, to hang out with those guys, like 10 and other guys,
Yeah.
pretty friggin' awesome.
What was this like? Because you've been on a moose hunt before, and you've also shot a caribou, right?
Yeah.
What kind of caribou was it?
Mountain caribou.
It was.
Yeah.
So you've hunted both these species before then. So
I hunted Alaskan Yukon moose though, which was bigger than these ones are Canadian, obviously, in BC. And so I knew the difference, comparable difference to the two, like body size, antler size, things like that.
Nearly passed up this one.
And yeah, I nearly passed up the one that I shot, which is so glad I didn't, because once it got on the ground, it just got bigger
Yeah,
and bigger and bigger.
I love that feeling. It's better than it's shrinking. That's
Yeah.
Sure.
But the country's a fair bit different, definitely, than like I was just above the Arctic Circle. So in the Mackenzie Mountains, the country was a lot different. The country here is a lot thicker. It's a lot harder to see into. And just the grounds are different. The river systems are different as well. So at least where I was, in the Mackenzie Mountains, when you'd come down to a river, it would be clear for a long way down into the river, and the river would flatten right off. So that was always a good place to spot game, and just a lot more openings. And here, where there's openings, and it looks like it's about a foot tall with brown grass or sticks, that's like 6, 7, 8 feet tall. You know, and you're trying to look into that. So if a moose lays down in there, like they could be in the open, but laying down, you're not going to see them unless they sort of hop up. But you know, these guys.
But that
these
was what
guys.
was crazy, like when they did stand up and they were bummed that stuff.
Oh
and you're,
no,
holy crap,
that
they
is
did.
like. And then you see them and you don't realise that, and then you go to walk in after them and it's like up here.
Yeah.
And you're like, we could actually see half of that moose's body or more out of that. You know that what do you call that spickety crap? Crap.
Wasn't it alderbrush or willows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that was tough, but like, you know, just flying in was awesome. Like that was already an adventure itself. We had to make that emergency landing because the weather closed us in. So we ended up landing on a lake that had another outfitter's camp on it, which we thought we might have to beg to stay at. And
That was sketchy.
that was so sketchy. Like we just flew in, and then just the storm just like closed in around us, and we had to arc out and come back in. Like we started flying through the snow and sleet, and then the pilot was straight away. Like, and it sounds like that dude probably takes a few risks with some of the stories he told us, and he was like, "Nah, we're turning back," and we're like, "Oh crap!" Like we're flying back into the Yukon.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what day we might get in if we could get in that day.
And then he landed on the lake. The weather closed in around us. We sat around for
And this is just a lake to land on
just in the middle
to
of
get out
nowhere.
of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the park.
And then he's like, we have one attempt, because we burnt fuel doing that. we have one attempt to land on the lake where we're supposed to be, and if that doesn't work, we're going all the way back. And he just found a gap in the weather, and we flew into the lake, and it was
Worked out.
Christmas time.
But when he dropped us off and left, we're like, oh, he flew out Randy Ulmer,
That's right, flew over Andy
a
Ulmer.
few other guys, and,
Yeah.
and they're flying out, and then he's like,
He disappeared.
Next time we see him-
Actually, the sound completely disappeared. We're like, oh, cool. And then the sound comes back again, and he's
Like
flying
20
the
minutes
opposite
later.
direction to fly around a storm, a blizzard.
and a mountain
Yeah,
to come out the other side where it may or may not be
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And then he poked out, and evidently they got back.
it's
Yeah, I
scary.
don't think
The
people-
whole thing is
People don't
sketchy.
realise that the flying up here is like eyesight. And,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that the mountains create their own weather. And so you can be, it's interesting, especially when we're sheep hunting, you can be looking across to the mountain range and it's developing clouds, but they never get to you, or vice versa. There's no clouds there, but there's a cloud system forming above you. So it's, those pilots are unbelievable what they figure out, and they die young or they
Yeah,
get
they
old
figure
because
it
they're
out.
smart. But
Hopefully they all get old.
yeah, exactly. But it's a logistical nightmare for us with the weather, because
If a guy books a 10-day hunt, and then
it
he
eats into their hunt.
and eats into their hunt,
Which
they
sucks.
only hunt like 7 days
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But then all of a sudden, say if you have your schedule and you have different hunters coming in back and forth.
Someone has to stay longer.
Yeah. So it is.
You're at the
definitely a
mercy
struggle.
Yeah.
of the mountains. Like, there's no schedule that really works here.
Mhm.
The weather dictates so much, and you have no control over it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even on our hunt, there's like, you could be in a whiteout for a couple of days, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm.
You can't go out and hunt in
And
it.
we actually got really lucky this year in terms of weather for the whole season. It was pretty good. Like, there was some crappy weather and high wind. And
Yeah.
Oh,
stuff,
we're
but-
absolutely
But
blessed.
we'll have to hunt.
Even our miserable days, we still got to get out.
The
Like
last day me and you did, that was
Yeah,
stupid.
there's
but,
no one in that camp that wants to be tent bound, so you just, even
Make
though
it
it's
happen.
pointless, you just go out anyway, because there could be a 1 in a million chance of bumping into something in that
Right.
crappy weather, and it's still worth it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You don't get to come up here. We don't. I mean, it's my first time, and I don't
Yeah.
know when I'll be back.
no,
And so you want to maximize every
make the most
moment
of it.
that you have, even if the odds of seeing caribou are like 1 in a million.
Yeah.
You're like, they're 1 in a million more here than at home in Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like, it's like,
yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
I
totally.
gotta do it.
Yeah.
So, Dan, I'm sure you knew of Adam Greentree. You
Mhm.
guys met prior to this. Like,
We
you guys
met-
knew each other.
So that's another weird sort of, like, all the stars would have to align for that to happen again. But so we're at, was it the Western Expo?
We met at ATA,
ATA, was it?
but just briefly.
Was Nick Morton at?
We were walking
Which
out
one was
of
Nick Morton at? Western
Yeah,
Expo.
Western. But we were walking out of ATA at the same time, and it was pouring down rain.
Yeah,
And
that's
we were in
right. I heard an
and then-
Aussie accent.
Yeah, it was like, hey, how you doing? And I
No,
introduced Dustin,
oh,
but
how
that
you
was
doing? Would have been like,
G'day,
g'day,
mate.
mate. How are you? How's the pick over there? Pretty good.
Exactly.
Eh?
But yeah, at Western Expo, we were out to dinner with like Cole and that, and
The whole crew.
Cole
yeah.
Kramer.
had a chat with them. But yeah, I hadn't really met Adam, or I'd only heard all the bad things about him. From,
Of course.
no, I heard good things, but yeah, I hadn't met Adam at all. So until Western,
Yeah.
really.
But
Well-
then, so we get to the Western Expo, and Nick Morton's there, the owner of Ozcut Broadheads, and he's an Australian and a non-drinker.
Mhm.
Then Dan's there, Australian non-drinker, and then I'm there, Australian non-drinker. Like, the chances of having
That's-
3 Australian non-drinkers
That's like
anywhere
3
in the
Australian
universe.
non-cussers.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we make up for that. Oh, I do.
Yeah, you make up for that. I did that.
But, yeah, it was pretty funny.
So I was gonna ask Dan, like, you had to have some preconceived notions about Adam Greentree, and so those preconceived notions compared to what you ended up experiencing, like, whoa,
What was like, he's actually a good guy. Like, that's
Who
how
would have funk?
it's like, he's actually good. Yeah, like I thought before this hunt he was a good guy, but it's like, oh no, like he's actually a really good guy. No, I think like prior to him coming, there's a bit of nervousness, like what are the expectations? How's it going to turn out? What,
He's gonna be a diva.
Yeah, like, and then obviously I've listened to him on Joe Rogan and seen a bunch of his stuff, and he's successful wherever he goes. So it's like, hopefully I can live up to that. But then as soon as Adam came, it was just like mates and out there to have a good time. And the first part when we went and got the moose into the spot, I said to Adam, hey, like horses aren't really my thing. I'm still learning them. So if you want a backpack, that's my thing. Like let's and he was up for it and ended up working out perfect. But it's just been awesome. You meet genuine good people that actually care, and Adam's one of those. It's been good. Really
Yeah.
good.
What is one of the things that surprised you about Adam? Like any nugget of
Why are you trying to dig up dirt?
just
Yeah.
curious, like something that like you're like, oh, because I know like Dan, he's a big time, like he's read the Wheel of Time like 5 times,
Pretty awesome.
and me and him both geeked out on like books we've read, and we read a lot of the same ones. And
He can't really sing, but that's not surprising.
I think Johnny
He tries.
Cash pretty good. I know all the words
But he
because
tries.
it's like the only like tape that I had growing up.
I can't think of anything. I'll come back to it. Yeah,
No,
I'll
that's
like
a
something speak
friggin'
out, but like
Perfect answer
Boom.
and stop right there. I can't think of anything because there's nothing. I'm very open, so if there's something wrong with me, you usually know about it because I talk about it.
yeah.
But
he takes a lot of photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love
He's a little
photos.
gay, but
I love
it's okay.
photos.
Oh, you liked it.
Yeah.
So,
But one thing about Dan,
Oh,
'cause-
okay.
no, and it's a good thing too.
Oh.
I'm good at compliments as well. Is he's telling me a bunch of things, and he's recognizing a few things going on in his life and how he is and how to be better and things like that. And I'm like, dude, how old are you? And he's like 27, and I'm like, if you're already on top of that at 27 and thinking about that, you all killed it. You have killed it. You'll be so friggin' happy. He's already happy. He's a happy dude. He's doing what he loves.
the first time I met Dan was at the sheep show,
Yeah.
I believe. And so I see Dustin Rowe, like leprechaun size, walk
Yeah.
up, and then Dan walks up, and he's,
What are you trying to say, right?
What did Arklow say? It's like the Mad Max film and he's wearing Dustin on his backpack. Dustin's a little dude out of Mad Max. Oh,
He's a mini
shit.
And so we're hanging out, and Dan just sparks up conversation, and we just start talking, and he's talking about Jordan B. Peterson
He's
and like
Legend. Yeah.
some deep thinking, like very intellectual and philosophical ideas, and just like pinging me with questions and ideas and thoughts, and just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And you can tell Dustin's like, if we're not talking about sheep, why are we talking at all? And me and Dan are like going off.
It's
Yeah.
interesting to Dustin's credit. So like, it's actually last year, and we were doing a bunch of driving back and forth from Whitehorse, and we're listening to the Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson podcast,
Mhm.
and we're getting pretty deep,
Yeah.
But Dustin can switch off, like it's like there's this time for discussion for that, but not all the time. Whereas I'm like, every person like, hey, have you heard of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah,
Like, let's talk about that.
Yes.
I just think that's so relevant to everyone's life, so that's why.
Right.
Yeah, if I'm passionate about something, then I want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I like
No, I mean, I think it's awesome because I also think it shows someone who's introspective and deep thinking, and curious about life and improvement, continual improvement, and so I was impressed. I was like, whoa, who's this philosophical giant that's like 20 years old,
That doesn't speak proper English.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like to beat up people.
I thought he was from New Zealand, actually.
Oh, that's
Oh,
insane. Holy shit.
You've never been
Just
dashed up on your
kidding,
podcast before, have you?
But let's get into your hunt because it's a pretty epic story. Adam has no moose meat. We did get some backstraps.
We stole the best bits. So day 2, I ended up climbing up this crazy pine tree that was snapped.
No, hang on.
Start from the very beginning.
Backpack. You didn't take the horses.
No, didn't take the horses. Because
Weather.
horses can be a bit of a burden when you want to walk out from them for a day, because there's still some places that horses can't go that you can walk into.
Mm-hmm.
So we backpacked out. We seen a nice bull, but was herded up with cows, and like the rut's coming to an end.
So before we go on to that, when we landed, there happened to be a bear problem. That was
Bed come into camp and stolen the cape.
stolen the cape and where
which
we were
doesn't-
at.
Yeah, we're like right in camp, and there's a lot of activity, but we'd just been out for the day, so yeah, it would have been.
He waited. I mean, he was
that's
bold
good.
enough to come right into
That's
your
what I mean.
camp.
There's so many times when they're just there listening.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, we
for
found
him
his
to
traps.
do that, yeah, he's sort of like hanging around camp listening.
Well, remember when
It's
we walked out
silent
of
for a
camp?
while, go in there a bit, steal the cape, and then the morning we left, there was fresh snow on the ground from that morning,
That's what I was getting
and he nearly left like a fingerprint. He left a fingerprint in the snow. It was that fresh that it even left all the little lines from underneath his paws.
at. And they were
the snow.
gigantic.
And Roberto, who had gone and caught some horses, just right there, that bear was right behind him the
It
whole
would have
time.
been there for sure watching him, but yeah, that's all right.
And it was snowing and hard to see and a
Yeah.
little gnarly
Yeah.
and dark.
Totally. Yeah.
So you guys pack up backpacks, not on horses.
Yeah. So what was funny
but
was
you walk right across his tracks
What we
because they were 100 yards from our cabin.
He followed the trail that we followed the trail that he walked for a good portion of the morning, and then we left his trail and just stayed on foot, and then come across a second set of fresh bear prints. Remember where that moose prints would walk through? In another clearing, there was another fresh set of bear prints.
So they kind of just cruising around.
They're just cruising, and it's
They're
funny.
not.
We actually never laid eyes on a grizzly, but we laid eyes on fresh grizzly sign. Grizzlies were constantly sneaking around camp and stealing things and breaking into places, and
Yeah.
Well, and the brush is like you said, 8
Yeah, you
feet
can't
tall.
you can't see.
You can't see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we hiked out and we got onto a nice bull, but was herded up with cows, and he was happy to stick with those cows, and he was doing everything right, wasn't he? He was like screaming up in there, like, what's the like grunt thing they do? What would you? Yeah, it's just.
But it's so hard
so
to mimic because I think I'm pretty sure it goes lower than the human ear can hear. So we only hear a portion of that grunt, and it's just like this real deep.
It's like it makes your insides.
I want to hear it, Dan. Give it to me.
Ooh.
Ooh, almost. I can't really do it.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that they get so fired up in the rut that you can, like it was funny when Adam got his and I'm listening to his noise compared. I'm like, yeah, you don't even sound
He
close
was
to it.
loving it.
But he was like looking at it like that's a bull.
I was like,
Yeah.
ugh.
We'll get to that point, but it's interesting.
And we were
listening to
kind of coming in. It's a rut,
Yeah.
There's bulls that are getting cows.
Yeah,
and
but
everything.
so by then a lot of them had cowed up, and then there was roaming bulls, and that guy we tried to get in close.
He was right there in the timber, but it's so thick that right there in the timber miles will be 100 miles away because there's just no shot. We never got eyes on him. He was just there. We couldn't push it because he had cows, and it was one of those situations where it was better to stay out of there and just hope that he'd come in. He didn't come in. He just sort of kept the edge. He nearly kept the barrier between us and the cows, thinking that we're another bull, and the cow calls weren't working either because he had cows. But then another bull, like a mature bull, come from, say, 400 yards away to 200 yards. Unbeknown to us, Roberto was back on a spotter, and he was watching that whole side of the face that we were under. And he only came so far as well, but turned around. But we were, the thing was we were in the zone. It was like, this is awesome. And
And we built an awesome fire.
Yeah, we had a nice little fire going, and we're just waiting for the afternoon to come back. So they come around, so they'd come out of the timber.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time period, we looked out 6 miles away, like something ridiculous, and you just seen this little brown speck going across a clearing way off in the distance. Like, I mean, like it was hazy. That's how far, it's cold, it was so far away, it was hazy still.
Okay.
And you just see these paddles on this brown speck like this. And then I took one look through the spotter, and it was like, you were never going to get there in the day. Like, it was a ridiculous amount away, but it's like, that bull's big from this distance, let's go. And we just, like...
Let's get in the area.
We screamed across there. Like, I mean, we were just gunning. We just went the best pattern for the timber to get there. And we ended up dropping down low. And you're constantly looking for a vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we said before, you know, that stuff that looks like it's about that high is like this high. Yeah. And you're constantly in it, and you couldn't see through it. And we let out a few calls, couldn't get a reply or anything. So we ended up setting up camp. And it was like we just set up camp on the side of this slope. There was really nowhere to camp. It was either wet, boggy marsh or the sticks. And but anyway, we set up camp, had a good fire, and Dan cooked up a good feed. And it was actually about that point that we were like, shit, we may have made a mistake. We hiked away from where we knew 2 bulls were on the side of a mountain for the very slight chance of even seeing that bull again. Because he was traveling, and it seemed like 100 miles away. And once you get there, it's like nothing looks the same. It's like, where exactly was the bull? Because you're going through stuff like this the whole way.
Yeah, we didn't hike to where we saw him. We kind of hiked in the vicinity where
he was heading.
And they cruise on it. They cover a lot of ground too. So it's kind of like, let's just get in the area. And I'd actually, the previous hunt, been kind of above that that river valley, and we'd seen a lot of big bulls heading away from us down that way. So it was like, I think that's a good spot to be, you know, where the action is happening, it seems. So it was kind of a bit of a blind move.
Yeah. But anyway, we got up in the dark, photographed the northern lights, which was cool, over the top of the tents, and then let out a few calls blindly in the dark, just near camp. And no replies or anything, and we sort of split up a little bit trying to get different vantage points. And before I even got to my vantage point, Dan was sort of like, "Oi, come back." And he'd seen a younger bull, what looked like a younger bull, over the edge. So we started cruising around. You know, couldn't really see anything once you drop back to camp level. We started cruising around and couldn't see anything, and I ended up climbing like a dead pine tree that had snapped off, you know, about 3/4 of the way up. Climbed up there and sat on there as a perch and could see everywhere around. Seen like one cow, that was it, and then...
But we were kind of like, when we saw the cow, like, ooh, you know, it might be a bull around.
It could be a bull. So,
yeah, because this is not a, like, because I was there like the next day, this is not like a huge expansive, you could see it if you could get above it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But you just had no chance of seeing squat if you were around.
Yeah. And we might as well give all the details.
Yeah.
Dan needs to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
Adam saw that dead tree, and I'm like, and I knew, like, I saw that bull, and then I called out, I'm like, hey, come back, you know, I just saw a bull, let's go check it out. I didn't think it was a shootable, but it's like, let's just check it out. It's a bull, let's check it out. And I really needed to go then. And shoot me, I didn't grab toilet paper on the way to go check it.
And then all of a sudden, me?
No,
yeah,
so he's like, I didn't bring toilet paper. I'm like, use a stick.
Use my hand. No, he said use your hand. And Adam just starts charging ahead.
There's
I'm
no
like, hey,
leaves on the tree.
I thought we were going for a 5-minute hike, and then it's like we're just pushing through. Adam wants to find a vantage point, and he's just pushing. And I'm like, far out, you know, I really need to go. So then we found this. There was a little bit of a marshy spot that was open, and then the brush and that dead tree that Adam saw. So he's like, I'm going to go there. I'm like, all right, good. I'm going to take care of business. So I do my thing, and
He's taking care of business, and
it was a perfect.
We've had a couple of calls.
No
since
one,
then.
like
You've
was no
done some cow calls,
And
stuff?
as he's doing his business, I hear like a bull in a trance behind us doing the grunt.
Can I just clarify?
And then I can't even look back that way because I've got a vantage point. I know he's going to the toilet behind me, so I'm like, there's a bull behind me.
Can I just clarify? It was a totally clean. You know when you get those perfect bush craps that like you don't need paper? It was one of those, and I'm so thankful because that would have been a disaster.
You just dropped a clean loaf.
Oh, it was just clean, and then as done. But so
that's what you tell yourself.
Hear this bull, me and Adam look at each other like.
No, I wait until I hear rustling around, like I know he's done. You don't rustle
Whatever,
around
I
when you're
whistled
doing
to
it.
you.
So then I turn around and he's like, and I'm like, yeah, I've known about it for a little while.
Oh, whatever.
And so I
I had to
climbed down
whistle
from
to
the
him.
tree.
He was so intent looking at that cow.
So I climbed down from the tree, walked back up to him, do a little bit of a walk around him just in case he did it right there. And then it's like, there's a bull coming.
And how tall is the brush?
Like, it's above your head. It's like well above your head. And so Dan stayed in position.
But the wind was coming right pretty well from the bull to us.
Yeah.
And I set up back a bit, and like with moose hunting, you try and set up so that the hunter is in a position where the bull's going to pass, and so that they'll get a sight-on shot. Yeah. And
it's the perfect setup. It's like when you're predator calling, like fox whistling or something, where the caller's here, the actual shooter's up further, so he'll get a broadside shot as where you suspect the animal to come through.
But you've got to be careful of because moose will always try and get the wind. So you've got to judge which direction they're going to take. Yeah.
So I cruised up into position and just sort of stood on. When I say a high mound, I mean like a foot higher than the rest, just so you can see a bit up against the tree, so it would break up all my the backdrop and everything. And Dan started calling, and it took him a while to come.
Yeah, like
the reason why it took him a while to come is because he walked all the way to our camp, and Roberto was in camp, and that bull was like 30 yards from our tents.
And Roberto was like, "What the hell? Where are these guys? What are they doing?" Yeah. I didn't tell him.
We walked under, and this is like the big bull from the day before that we seen miles.
So
had to be.
You gotta say you guys hiked out with Roberto, who was with you guys during this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had no intention of I didn't think we were going to shoot a
just
bull.
We going to have a look at what maybe very slight chance
You just
of
wandered
a
from the tent a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that smaller
bull. But you
bull
had called from the tent.
Yeah, in the dark.
Yeah.
And then I'd seen that
Just to
young
get
bull, but I didn't know
them
there was two bulls right there.
Yeah.
So that young bull ended up going off with those cows we seen down lower, and this big bull come out of who knows the woodworks. But anyway, so it took him a while, but eventually when he decided he was definitely coming, like he came through the timber fast, like he charged through, and
how cool is that?
And with all the debris, like with all the sticks and everything, and just seeing like his head coming through and like a bit of his neck, and thinking that Canadian moose are a lot smaller in body size, it was really hard to judge the antlers. And it's like day 2. I don't like shooting stuff on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's a 7-day hunt, I want to kill on day 7 and like really like bask in the glory of that was hard, that was tough. Yeah. Anyway, so I was a little bit chilled, and that was good because I was so chilled. Like I wasn't going to shoot him. He come in and like, this is so awesome. I pull my phone out. I'm like, yeah, man, and start filming him and just
like,
really
you were going to shoot him anyway. So you're doing all this filming,
doing all this filming or whatever, and he's like 100 yards away trying to hug the tree line. That's like I've got a clear gap in front of me. We say clear and it's like just miserable shit, but compared to the pines, clear, and he wanted to hug that pine line. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, I'll play with him a little bit, and I started like grunting, and then he come like 30 yards, and then
he got past you to me when you started grunting, and so he's like,
you didn't want him to wind him.
There's a bull, but I'm closer to the cow than that bull, so screw. I'm just going to.
He sort of come 30 yards, went back to the cow, which is Dan, and when he turned that other time, I seen the back of his paddles, and when I seen the back of his paddle, I was like, holy shit, this is actually a big bull, like they're just like out here, like you could just see all the shape to them. So then I'm like, actually, I'm hunting him, you know, and then I put the phone away and I flicked on the Garmin Verb and started recording with that. What I thought was recording, it was doing a time lapse, but anyway. I thought it was recording, and so I flicked that on, called him another 30, so now he's only like 30 from me, but when he come that other 30, he walked, I can just see the tops of his antlers then. Like, that's how high that brush was in that section. And there was no shot. And I think probably Dan picked up that there was no shot. So Dan called again. He turned, face Dan, and then I did the stomp out, like, you know, about the same pace of moose would. Because, you know, you're breaking sticks. It's so noisy in there. So I'm breaking sticks at about the pace that a moose would and grunting. And he turned and faced me.
Well, he like ran off a little bit and then turned and faced because he thought it was a bull coming,
yeah. So he ran off a little bit, turned and faced. I stalked to like 30, well, not stalk, decoy, stalk, walked, whatever, to like 30, and I've been 31 yards on the dot, but I couldn't lean out. He was facing me like front on, and then Dan called at the perfect time. He turned broadside. I come the full draw. I tried to pull him up by saying, "Oi!" It was like the most Australian thing to say to pull up a bull. So I'm like, he won't know this is human language. Oi! And he didn't stop. He just kept walking, and then I just put it on him walking and put it low on the heart and just punched it through. He like raced past Dan. Dan's got the footage. It looks so crazy.
Yeah.
He raced straight past Dan and just like holds up, and then he gets the big lean up and crashes to the ground.
And the steam, like in the video, it shows the steam
like all the steam coming off. This is like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. It was so perfect, except for where he died and everything. But
which is more
anyway, he dies in this tiny little like clear ditch, and it's like got a 4-yard radius circle. This little ditch, and then it's all the thickets around it. But anyway, we got the work, and just like, I'm just amazed that I've got to, you know, kill another moose. They're such a big, magnificent animal. Like, they are incredible.
And to have it come in and grunt and be
everything was perfect.
And he was grunting constantly. It was so cool listening to him. You're like, whoa.
And
I envy that. I want that experience.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing was to get to play with him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, Dan's an awesome guide, obviously, and like, that was really enjoyable, but I do like the unguided thing where you have to do everything yourself to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And this was so good because I got to play with the moose myself. I didn't just have someone call and it comes in and you shoot it. You know, I had to get him to come out of that timber line and over to me, and then I had to get in and stalk him and stuff like
it was
that.
good teamwork. Like,
It was awesome.
Right.
And it wasn't like I was sitting back there like, call now, Dan, call now, like to take his attention away.
Yeah.
Because he was just staring at the object that had walked through.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dan calls, takes his attention away from me big time.
And he's like, he was closer to me than even then. He's like, yeah, whatever.
And
if he wants to come
that's
that bull
right.
wants to come at me, whatever.
Exactly.
I'm going to take the cat.
And then the other thing is you're shooting at a completely relaxed, unaware animal then. Because I maybe had the time to come the full draw, step out, and him go, oh shit, that's not right, and then shoot. But the thing was, I was shooting at an animal that was just walking to a cow doing its everyday business. And, you know, that always feels good. But to walk on top, to get up to such a big animal on the ground again. And like we said, that when I got up to it, those antlers just grew and grew. And the body of it grew. And you, as soon as you looked at him, you could tell he was old. He had hair falling out of him. He had, like, an extra, like, friggin' coronet. Like, it was like an extra coronet on its forehead. One of its eyes is, like, gouged out. It had teeth missing. We cut him open, did a full autopsy. The arrow had gone straight dead center of the heart. He had growths on his heart. He had all this liver spot on him. He's just, like, an old bull.
Yeah.
Bruised up. That feels good as well. Like, you know, like, I know we always go to the antlers, and it's not just the trophy thing. You go to the antlers because they're so magnificent. Like, how it grew this in a season.
Yeah.
It grew this in a season. It's going to drop them off again and grow it all over again.
Yeah.
You know, and just to have those big, like, it's so friggin' medieval. It's so, like, out of this current world, you know, something like that. So, you know, you do go to the antlers, but the thing was the whole animal was big and old and, like, just a warrior.
yeah, like as you're skinning him and you're moving the legs around and get the corners off. And it's like
Yeah,
tree
it's
trunks.
crazy.
Holy crap, you know, and
Like just the bone in the legs like that.
yeah.
Well, and the height.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so incredible. They can move through that stuff so
Yeah.
silently when they want to.
Crazy.
And it's because the majority of their body is above that brush, and then they're careful, and
It's unreal.
yeah, they're silent.
So we get the bull killed, and it's like happy days, and we walk back to our camp because it's only like 600 yards away, right? And we get back to our camp, we pack up a bit of stuff in our camp, like Dan's MSR, what's that, wind burner
Yeah,
thing
wind
you've
burner,
got?
What was Roberto's
stove.
reaction?
And well, he come over and
He
he's like,
saw the bull run off
Oh.
like from the hit.
Oh, he
But
saw.
up until then, he was freaking out because he's like, man,
where are they?
it came right to camp. They could have shot
Yeah,
me here, all
yeah.
this stuff. So, but when he saw that, and of course, like I hadn't looked at my inReach or anything like that until after the fact, and then he, got a bunch of messages from me like, "Where are you? There's a giant bull," and all this stuff. So he was pretty happy, but at the same time, he's like, man, like he was
Missed
so
it.
mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
But he come over, he was stoked, he's
Yeah.
an awesome dude.
yeah.
And then, so Dan grabbed his frying pan and everything. We went down. We did
Yeah,
a-
highly recommended. The little MSR wind burner, I think, because I've used the jet ball as well. It's much better. And then I just have like a little MSR frying pan that sits on it and you can cook cheese quesadillas on it.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
right.
radical. And then if you get an animal, you can fry some up right there. So.
Yeah. And so I had spice on me. Dan had a little, the frying pan and the cooker.
Yeah.
And we salvaged every bit of meat that you could salvage on that bull. Even we hacked the ribs out, so we had full ribs with all the meat on it. And we didn't take the organs because of the liver
pulled the
spot
coal
and the
fat.
growth and everything, coal fat and everything. We had everything laid out. We sat down, we cooked some meat, we ate this meat. It was the best, wasn't
That
it?
was awesome. Yeah,
And because it's cold,
enjoyable.
There's like none of the meat's going off or anything, and it's just first thing in the morning. It was like so relaxing.
Yeah,
It was
and like we had the whole day, so we kind of relaxed
Yeah.
about it. It was,
we packed up
so
camp. We hiked back into the main camp where the ponies were, and that was like dark. By the time we got back there, it was dark. It was a big hike out.
Yeah.
Next morning, got up early. We loaded up the horses.
And it started to blizzard.
It was blizzarding. We had a couple of horses to ride, and then we had the pack horses to get the moose out. One hit. So we'd load the moose up. And you come with us on this as well, but we'd load the moose up and we'd pack it to the lake where one of the float boats could come in, pick up all the meat, the antlers, the whole lot, the skin, and take it all out in one hit.
So it was you and Dan,
Me, Dan, you, and
Keith,
Keith.
Yeah.
and then how many 3-pack horses?
3 pack horses.
Three pack
So it takes
horses for a
three,
moose.
3 horses for a moose, and that's pretty heavy on the There's
Yeah.
a hell of a lot of
So
meat.
so a decent
Off-road
party,
moose.
and we rode through that blizzard pretty much most of the day.
Dude, it was gnarly.
Yeah. And anyway, it was cool. It was happy days, and you were hunting, so it was like, well, doing 2 purposes. You were getting the hunt the whole way out, and we're going to go and pick up all my bull. And we get to roughly where the bull is. You can't take the horses through that last bit because it's just all like
Boggy
thickets
and
crisscrossing
thick
and everything.
Mm.
And we start walking in there, and with heightened senses, for maybe a reason we didn't know yet, but sort of just get in there a little bit cautious, and then you finally come, like you can't even see my bull at all. That's how thick it is. And then you finally come through and you notice that whole 4 or 5 yard radius is completely changed in landscape. And it's like the weirdest feeling, like it's first it's like what? And then it's the realization like, holy crap, a grizzly bear has just buried every bit of that moose, except for the antlers because they were sticking up. He had buried every bit of that moose, and he had excavated dirt from I don't know where to make that go from a hollow to a mound.
Yeah.
And it more looked like a friggin' beaver mound than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
And right on top of that mound is like a dirty, melted black spot where the dirt is all exposed. And yeah, it's like smoothed out. And I put my hand down there to feel it, and it's still warm where the grizzly was just laying. He's just moved off when he's heard us. And it's just like, and then everyone's like,
Because it's cold.
big eyes, looking, listening, like.
Dude,
and then
it was
Keith
like...
started walking in because Keith come in late, and I just hear rustling. I'm like, shh. And then it's like everyone's like, listen, and then Keith's like,
what's going on?
Keith like walks in like, what's going on? Oh. And then typical cameraman just starts
Turns on the
filming,
camera.
Yeah.
just starts filming stuff, you know, like
Someone's gonna get eaten, I'm gonna get it on camera.
He's good at his job. And then there was a few moments there where we're like, we need to send out a message. We need to make sure exactly what's legal in this matter. Like, do we recover the meat in such a dangerous situation? And most of it's tarnished because it's been buried with dirt.
And they piss on it.
And that's what I was saying. There was piss stains everywhere. He'd been pissing everywhere. Do we legally still have to recover the meat? Do we legally have to leave it alone now because of the grizzly bear and everything like that? And, you know, I just seen 2 meat bags. I could see 2 meat bags buried in the dirt.
Just under a slight layer.
Yeah, just under a slight layer, and just had to dig around and pulled one meat bag out, which I knew had probably the back straps, and I think there was neck meat in it. And the other one was just sort of floating to the side. Grabbed that and walked out, got back to the horses, and we sort of, you know, because there's a little bit of protection in the horses too, because they got good senses and they pick up on things, and big objects and, you know, numbers sort of thing. Even though we're like 100 yards from where the kill site is still, and we're just listening, and you know, it's funny is, remember when we first pulled up there, and I'm like,
The crows.
I think I did a video for Insta story where I'm like, it's probably not a good sign that the crows are in the tree and not on the kill site. That might mean there's like a wolf or a bear there, and we walk in and that's there, and it's like, crap. But anyway, we end up getting some messages back on the inReach with the legalities around that. And if you're in danger in BC, if you're in danger, like there's a grizzly there or in the vicinity, and you're putting yourself or clients in danger, then you're to leave the meat. And
you're not allowed to shoot the bears. So
and you're not allowed to shoot the bear, so you can't. Yeah, exactly. And that really actually hurt, even though it's not wasted. Like, a bear's gonna eat that. But what hurt me was I was really looking forward to taking all that meat back to some families that I've sort of nearly promised. Like, if I shoot a moose, because I can't take it back to Australia, but I promised different families that I would give them that meat. And we put all the effort into doing the good cuts. If I knew a bear was going to eat it, I wouldn't go to the effort to make friggin' tomahawk steaks for the
hours
butchering it. And yeah, that sort of sucked. And not sort of, that actually really did suck. It actually hurt. But at the same time, it's part of the system that we live in now, you know, and hunters, that's part of the role hunters play. Sometimes we feed the scavengers.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting with that area because it's one of our better moose spots. I think the bears have figured out that this time of year is when we hunt them, and so there are a few gut piles around and they cruise through areas. So the less you can hunt them in that area, the more problems we're going to have, just like in Montana and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we don't know.
Well, dude, when I walked in the clearing, because you guys had entered it first and I was behind you, and you guys pop into the clearing, and it dawned on you what happened, because you've been there before.
Yeah.
I'd never been there before, and we pop into the clearing, and I'm like, why is there a beaver mound of earth right here? And let's keep moving to where the meat is. And then I see the skull on the right, and I start scanning the site for the meat, and I'm like, where's all the meat? And then it dawned on me that it's been buried, and you guys are walking on top of the pile, and I'm like, holy crap, you know, a grizzly bear has completely covered the whole thing.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, let's go back to the horses and do our inReach crap over there.
Yeah.
And when you got Mr. Dan over there with the shotgun, like keeping lookout, and I felt so vulnerable because the brush is like,
there was no vision. That you would hear sound, you'd hear movement, and then it would just pop out, and it'd be like a yard or 2 yards from being on you by the time you've seen it, if you've seen it at all.
Imagine being in a cornfield that has like a you know, a 10-foot circle in the middle, and that's where your thing is. You can't see beyond that wall, and you don't know when something might just break out at any moment. It was eerie.
Interesting. Like
and the thing was, he was here and he was listening to us the whole time, like, because the whole trip, that's all it's been, is like you leave the cabin and a bear breaks in, like once, you know what I mean? Like they're in ear's reach. So he was there listening to us the whole time, and it was just up to his instincts to make up the decision if he should come in and attack us or if he should not take the risk and stay off in his reach, and that's it, you know. And it's like, and like every animal's unpredictable. Like even pets are unpredictable. So a wild animal can just switch. So any moment, then he could have just run out and just
Yeah. It's fun. I enjoy it.
So we did move back to the horses.
Move back to the horses.
We of course snatched the
best
back strap.
We stole the antlers, the back straps, the tenderloins, and probably the worst of all, the neck meat, because it was in one of the
We're
bags.
like hauling butt through the brush with all these parts, going, get away from there as fast as you can, and it's like there's this eerie feeling like I was comparing it to, I feel like, you know, all those Vietnam movies I saw where the Charlie's in the bush and you never know when he might attack, and you're like, get out of the jungle, you know. And we're dragging that meat across, and it just had that feeling like that bear might not have attacked us while we're on the mound, but like, is he there watching you pull the meat away, and now he gets like instincts kick in, and he's super aggressive, like. And the thing is those bears.
He's claimed it. That's his. As far as he's concerned, that's his kill. You know,
which is totally like, you know, a sow with cubs, super dangerous. Right. She's going to defend her young you know, she's going to face danger that she would normally run from, because it's the instinct. And in this case, when a grizzly claims a kill like that,
and food's life and death for a lot of animals at that time of year.
They've learned that they have to fight for that food. The one who can fight for the food the most, defend what they've claimed, is going to be the one that survives. And so it was eerie. It was creepy, but you know, we got out of there.
Yeah. So we got the messages back. We packed the horses. We rode out of it, and the whole time though, I was like,
empty pack saddles.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't. You know what? But it also really proves that it's not about the antlers. Do you know what I mean? Because it was almost a little bit like he could have chewed on the antlers, whatever.
Yeah.
But the meat, he buried that meat in dirt and mud.
Yeah.
You bastard.
He's gonna eat it, though.
Yeah, I know.
He broke in and ate 2 caribou and a moose.
I think he stole a couple of chunks.
Yeah, so it's like the bear stories, if you want to continue with bear stories, is one bear went down to the lake cabin and pretty much ripped the side of the door, like ripped the timber off the door to get a paw in the door and reef the door open, and stole capes and a bit of other stuff.
Yeah, he pulled out a couple of capes out, but he didn't end up doing anything, which was lucky. Yeah. But then stole.
And then so they fixed it all up, and then me and Dan went back there another day when we were on the lake, and we had the use of a little boat that's been flown in there. It must have been flown in there. That boat's in the middle of nowhere.
Or pulled in by.
It could have been pulled in. I can't remember.
And then we get down to the cabin, and you just see these like monstrous prints like leading up to the cabin, and the door's like ripped open again, and there's just like he's just rummaged that cabin big time. And then it occurs to like Dan that he could be sleeping in there still.
Yeah.
So Dan's like, "Hey, bear,"
because the tracks are all a little like a day old.
Like, and the tracks only went in; they didn't come out, but he went out around the back.
Yeah.
But anyway, he'd had an absolute smorgasbord to the point where he could be picky, and because there was a food store in there as well. And he's like just eating some bacon, eating some roast pork,
he tasted it all,
eating some moose hide.
The problem is that stuff was being picked up, but because of bad weather,
again.
couldn't get in. And so once a bear gets realizes there's food, then they'll keep coming back and checking it out. So it's a hard position to.
Yeah.
What do you do about it?
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show how remote we are hunting up here, how remote it was, but also, how wild it is.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the wildest places on earth. We've already discussed a few times that it's like Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory where I hunt my buffaloes, like one of those last frontiers, still one of the wildest places in the world. And then this sort of backcountry up here, because it is so harsh.
We can only use horses, and in some places you can't even use horses. Like, that technology hasn't changed for hundreds of years because it's essentially the only method you can use. Without investing a lot of money into trying to build a road to access.
And it's so extreme. Like one day it's like sunny and nice, and you're walking around with some friggin' long johns on and a t-shirt. And then the sky's clear that night, and it's like all of a sudden you wake up in the morning, it's full blizzarding, freezing, everything's frozen, and it's just like...
There were a couple of mornings where I walked out and I was like, okay, this is hand-biting, face-biting cold. Like, it just burned.
It feels like it's cutting you.
Yeah, and my boots were dry the whole time, but they were leather, and the leather got wet, but...
outside of leather.
Yeah, but the Gore-Tex was perfect. My feet were warm and dry. When it got that cold and we got on horseback that day and everything was completely frozen, those wet boots, the wet leather froze into a rock.
Ice blocks.
Me and Keith both, our boots froze on the outside. So the leather was like an ice boot.
Yeah.
Hard as a rock. And I kept trying to bend it and stuff. But you're on the horse too, so you're not moving your foot. It's just in a stirrup. And it just got colder and colder and colder. And I was like, but it didn't matter because you were hunting, so you just tough it out, and the sun comes up, and you're like, so nice.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like, even when the sun was out, the little solar charger I had wasn't really charging because it was too cold.
Solar?
Yeah, like the little
solar charge.
Yeah. The weather can be pretty...
But that's also one of the parts that I loved about it was I wanted to go this late in the season because I wanted
to experience
just the
100%.
This northern, wilderness experience.
Yeah.
So
we got that.
We got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I will never forget. Despite our ever-changing, ever-indignant world with its growing ignorance of and indifference to the ways of the wild, I remain a predator, pitying those who revel in artificiality and synthetic success while regarding me and my kind as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood. I stalk a real world of dark wood and tall grass stirred by a restless wind blowing across sunlit water and beneath star-strewn sky. And on those occasions when I choose to kill, to claim some small part of nature's bounty for my own, I do so by choice, quickly, with the learned efficiency of a skilled hunter. Further, in my heart and mind, I know the truth and make no apologies for my actions or my place and time. Others around me may opt to eat only plants, nuts, and fruits. Still others may employ faceless strangers to procure their meats, their leather, their feathers, and all those niceties and necessities of life. Such is their right, of course, and I wish them well. All I ask in return is no one begrudge me, and all of us who may answer the primordial stirrings within our hunter souls, my right to do some of these things myself. What you just heard is a quote from M.R. James. We truly live in a world that is largely ignorant and indifferent to the ways of the wild. And although some regard us as relics of a time and place no longer valued or understood, we have the opportunity to change the way these people view the hunter and the hunt. We can share our experiences and nature's bounty with those who employ these faceless strangers. And by so doing, we make a difference, not just for ourselves, but for the wild animals in the wild places we care so deeply about. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting and the outdoors. Our wild animals and our wild places depend on it.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.